Hello everybody, welcome to webinar number 2, Creating a Well-Organized Bill of Materials. My name is Steve Hess. I am the Director of User Experience at OpenBOM. So in today's webinar, we are going to take a look at what it means to create a well-organized bill of materials. And I want to thank you all for joining. We are going to be sensitive to time. I plan to get this done in under 20 minutes and have time at the end for questions, and we will time box this to no more than 30 minutes. So thank you for joining. Let's get started. I'm going to go through a few slides here, and then we're going to get right into a live session. So what this webinar isn't, it's not a deep dive into BOM or database theory. It is what this webinar is a sensible approach to building a well-organized bill of material. And what we're going to refer to going forward here is a thoughtful bill of material that will serve your organization well going forward. It will be stable and reusable, as well as meet the primary objective of a bill of material, which we see here, which is to lead to the manufacture of the correct product. Now, take it from me, a guy who has built the wrong product on occasion, on one or two occasions in my engineering career, because of mistakes that were made in bills of material. So we're gonna go through and try to give you some guidance that will keep that from happening. So what are the parts of a well-designed BOM? And it's thoughtful in its design, and we're going to look a little bit deeper into what that means. Of course, it accurately represents the product that you want to build. The BOM will be stable and repeatable, yet it will respond well to changes, like changes to cost or quantity. And we're going to go through an example of that as well. And finally, it's going to promote reuse and eliminate redundancy and duplication and hopefully errors in your organization, as well as in your documentation, as well as in your product. So, and like I said, ultimately, you're going to build the right product. So that's the goal. So what are the things to consider, first of all, when I'm kind of designing my bill of material? What are some of the components that go into it, and some of the things that should have some thought up front? And first and foremost, part numbers. Do my part numbers make sense? Have I given the proper attention to my part numbers? If I'm a startup or an early company, am I making the right choices about how to design my part numbers? And have I included all the people in my organization that have a stake in that, manufacturing, planning, people in purchasing, etc. When I'm designing my BOM, do the columns or the property names, are they the names that are used in my organization? Do I use revision or version? Do I use state or maturity level? These are kind of things that you want to give some thought to, and the biggest suggestion that I can make to you around part number is don't ever put multiple pieces of information in the part number field. I see this; it's kind of a throwback to the old days of the BOM on the face of the drawing sort of thing. But if your part numbers look something like this down here, when you design a bill of material or an item in your item master, which we're going to look at, you really want to think about this as part number, revision and status, rather than putting all three of these things into the part number. The reason for that is that we're using a computer here, and part number, we like to have unique part numbers, and we like to have them unchanging. But then most bill of material tools today, part number is the key for retrieving all the information about the item. So we don't want to have a part number change when we go from, let's say, prototype level to production or high volume manufacturing. We don't want to go back and change the part number. Change the rev, change the state or status, absolutely, but not the part number. So something to think about there. So in our example today, we are going to look at the classic skateboard. This is a simple product. It has a couple. It has some great examples of some features of a bill of material that you'd like to that we'd like to examine in a simple form. So let's take a look at those. And what are they? We have a case of multiple assemblies being used with multiple instances, in case the axle subassembly is used in several places. We've got options about different types of wheels and other things that can be used. We've got a multi-level design here, and that will create sort of an indented bill of material. So this is the example we're going to use going forward. We're going to build this bill of material here in just a moment. So in the end, what will our thoughtful bill of material look like? So let's just take a look at what we expect to sort of have at the end. We expect to have a bill of material that has part numbers and images, of course, a quantity for each one of those things that's in use. In the case of a multi-level or an indented, a bill of material, we expect to have those things, broken out for the particular levels. We also expect to have costs, vendors, and other things that you would expect to find in our BOM. So that's sort of the end game, what we expect to find. But how do we get there? Excuse me. What are the building blocks that go into this thoughtful design? I'd like to introduce you to a concept that if you're coming from Excel or you're building your BOM straight out of CAD, you might not be familiar with. But others that are using other BOM tools or parts and vendors, other things you might. The idea is something called an item master. It might be referred to as a catalog. You may also refer to it as an inventory. The item master is the list of parts that you have, either on the shelf at your company for putting your parts together, or parts that you order, and it's the parts that go into all the things that you build. It may be more than our particular skateboard. We may have multiple decks or different options of wheels and other things like that. But so we think about this item master as sort of the list of all the parts that we can use to build products at our company. So that's the database of parts. The BOM now, as another thought, is the instances or the usage of those parts that are contained in the item master. So in my example here, I've got some parts and some labor defined in my item master, and in BOM number 1, I've got part number 10 and part number 20, and it has 4 instances. There's 4 of them in the particular BOM, and I'm getting description and cost from the item master. And then I'm doing a calculation in my bill of material to say, look, with 4 of these, what's my cost? You can see here, there's a pretty straight math, 4 times 10, our extended cost is 40. So the unit information, the information about the part is stored in the item master. The information about the usage is stored in the BOM. And we can see here now, BOM 2, we may reuse some of those same parts, and we may use different parts. And again, I'd like to show that labor and glue and other things that might not appear in our, in the CAD model per se, can also can appear in the item master, and certainly can appear in my BOM. So the essence of the item master is it provides a reliable place to store information about our parts, and it's the single vault of truth. If we change the cost in our item master, any bills of material that we have should update with the new cost and be reflected, in all the places that item is used. And we're going to do that as well. So, but anyway, I'd like to kind of have you thinking about this a little bit. Item master BOM relationship. Okay. Let's jump ahead again. So, what does a thoughtful skateboard item master look like? Here's what mine looks like down here on the right. You see I have quite a few columns and some other things. But I'd like to kind of point out a few of the highlights. I have a part number. This is the thing that my BOM is going to reference. So when I put this part number in my bill of material, I'm going to pull the information from this line into that BOM. You can see this is where the images and other information about it can be stored. And I can store a significant amount of information about that. Maybe the bin location, alternate bin location, lead times, costs, those type of things. Those are the information about the item that are stored in the item master. I can also have, in the case of my grip tape, maybe I have a couple of vendors that I buy this part number from, that I might have a different price from each vendor or different lead time. And in my item master, I would want to indicate which one is my preferred preferred vendor. And we'll take a look at what that means as well. So these are the kind of things. The bulk of the work goes into creating a thoughtful item master. Okay. All right. So we're going to jump into we're going to do some work here live. These are some of the steps that I'm going to that we're going to go through. I'm going to put this on another monitor so I can look at it while we dive into live. So I've opened OpenBOM, which is a cloud-based material management tool, and let me just increase the size here so this is a little more pleasing for you to look at. There you go. And I've taken a look at my Skateboard item master. It's very similar to something that we already looked at, but here it is live, and you can see I have quite a few columns, what we call properties. I've got links to the suppliers and other information that my purchasing people might find interesting, vendor part numbers, units of measure, things like that. All right. So let's get started creating a bill of material for that S100 skateboard. I'm going to create a new BOM. I'm going to use my Skateboard parts master as my item master catalog. And I realize those names are used somewhat interchangeably. So we're going to call that the S100 and create a bill of material. So I'm presented with an empty BOM with those properties that are defined in that catalog. We can also see that within OpenBOM, I have that catalog is associated with my bill of material. Let's start putting in some parts. I know that I need the deck. Excuse me. Add a few other items here. I need some axles. Grip tape. And I'm just using the lookup type ahead feature in OpenBOM to help me kind of pull those part numbers. And then finally, I also know that I need some screws to put this together. And if I don't remember the part number for that screw, I can use the search feature within OpenBOM to find those screws. Now, if there were multiple screws in my catalog, of course, I'd find those as well. Here it is. I'm going to use the insert into BOM. Okay. And I think up at the top, I know that I need 8 of those. I know that this board uses 2.5 feet of grip tape. I know that I need 2 axle assemblies and I need one deck. Okay. So remember back when we looked at our thoughtful bill of material, we were using it to find the extended cost as well. And so ultimately what I'm looking for in this example is, what's the cost of my skateboard? I'm just doing a little organization here to put cost on the screen. So I can see here that I've typed in the part number, I've typed in the quantity, and then OpenBOM has pulled all this other information from my catalog. Got my base cost, component description, vendors, and all that. That all came from our catalog, which we had defined. And then finally, I'm going to add add that extended cost that we looked at, because I am interested in finding out what the total cost is of my skateboard. Add that up to all my sub-levels. And then finally, I am going to define the formula for extended cost as cost times quantity. I'm also going to roll that up from the lower levels, and I'll give you an example of that in just a second. But what I'm saying is that telling OpenBOM to go look through all the sub levels of this and roll up all these extended costs all the way to the top, so I get the ultimate, the total cost of my skateboard. Okay, so I've got the extended costs have been calculated for each item, and I'm going to let's take a quick peek of what that looks like. So here's my my skateboard is at $69.27. And let's just take a look at what that looks like in the indented multi-level view. We can see that OpenBOM has rolled up the cost of each one of these. Each wheel assembly has 2 wheels and 2 nuts and a couple of oil seals, rubber seals, and then we've got 2 of those axles on each board. So we've kind of rolled up from below here. We've inserted that as the cost, and then we've computed the extended cost. So that's something that's very, very hard to do with Excel that a BOM tool like OpenBOM can do for you. So, okay, so we have a fairly thoughtful, useful bill of materials here. Looks very similar to what we were looking at in our slide deck. But let's see how well it behaves. Let's make a few changes. Okay, I happen to know that maybe on this deck I'm going to put 1.5 feet of grip tape. So the 2.5 that I called out. So we're making a change here to the usage on grip tape, and we see that the price of our board has gone down some. Now maybe I'd like to use a different vendor on this grip tape. Maybe I get a better price from. Let's take a look at. Let's go back to our catalog and say, hey, look, I've been buying this from McMaster, but I notice right now that Grainger has this at $3.25. I'm going to change that preferred vendor. Return back to my BOM. Update that bill of material, the changes from that catalog. We'll see our price now. The cost on that is $3.25, and we've computed the new reduced cost. So that's how that's how the bill of material should interact with your catalog. And so changes made in your catalog will be reflected in your bill of material. Usage changes in your bill of material will also be reflected in the in the roll-up cost. So excuse me. So finally, I'd like to just kind of give you an example of what we can do this bill of material as if I want to send this now down to my manufacturing floor. OpenBOM has an export feature where I can choose some particular information that I want to send down to them. Maybe I don't want to include certain pieces of information. Maybe I don't want cost and extended cost out on my manufacturing floor. I choose this. I choose a PDF. go ahead and export that. I'll move this in from here's what that PDF would look like if I sent it out to my manufacturing floor. So that's that takes us through our webinar for today. I'd just kind of like to review that we created a thoughtful item master. We added pieces of information to it about the item, cost, and all the other things. We spent a good deal of time, again, creating a thoughtful item master. We created a bill of material from that item master. We added our quantities and other things to that, and then we made some changes, and we saw how those changes were reflected in our total cost. So with that, I'd like to open it up for a few questions. I think we have enough time to take a few questions. So, okay, I see one. Can we add labor to the skateboard? Sure, like we did that in an example. Let's return to the skateboard item master, and let's add labor 20, and this is cost of that is going to be $20 an hour. So we've added that to our item master. Let's come to our S100 bill of material. And we will add 20. And let's say that it takes 0.22 hours to put together our skateboard. And we see we got $4.40 in labor, and it is reflected in our total cost here. So that's a good question. You could also add, the box that it ships in, Loctite, other things like that. Add it to your item master, and go ahead and as a unit, and go ahead and add it to your BOM with the quantities, in this case 0.22. Okay. What if you switch suppliers for the deck, or the grip tape? Okay, I think we did an example of that already, showing that we switched from Master to Granger. Again, that's done by creating multiple entries in the catalog, one for each vendor. As a matter of fact, OpenBOM has a command right here to duplicate item. And the duplicate item is used to make a copy, essentially, of that item, and then change the various information about it. You change the vendor, you change the vendor's cost. So yeah, so we did that. Set the switch here to that preferred vendor, and then go ahead and update your BOM, and we'll see those changes reflected in the BOM. Okay, what if I don't want my BOM to update when prices change? Okay, sure. So in our in the slide deck that we showed here, let's get this. We were showing the changes made here are automatically reflected in the BOMs. What I neglected to say was that it's automatically reflected in any BOMs which are not released. So if we're using OpenBOM and we're in our S100 bill of materials, in OpenBOM we have the ability to release a BOM. And once we release it, it's then locked for changes. As a matter of fact, I can just go ahead and do that now. And any changes to the bill of material will not be reflected in the BOM. So, okay. Thanks. I want to thank you all for attending. We can continue this conversation email at support@openbom.com. And thanks again for joining our weekly webinars. Have a great afternoon. Bye-bye.